smartphones might just be the most effective birth control ever invented.
And why do you say that?
Okay, so this new NPR report highlights this provocative working paper from this economist named Caitlin Myers.
Okay.
Basically, she says smartphones could explain between 1/3 and a half of the decline in U.S. birth rates since 2007.
Why?
I know. Okay, so basically they noticed births fell sharply right around the time the first iPhone launched. And in the early years, they pulled the data from this. You could only get an iPhone with AT&T, but AT&T wasn't everywhere. So they pulled the data from the places that had AT&T and therefore iPhones versus places where they didn't have AT&T, and they found that like the birth rates dropped more in areas where people had AT&T coverage and could get the iPhone. So if you remember, for those of you who don't remember yesteryear, we used to have like Blackberries and all these other sort of like off-market, not as smart smartphones. But once you had an iPhone, you could just stare at it all day long, and like kind of an unlimited amount. So their theory is that phones changed how people spent their time. And instead of hanging out in person, they spent more time online, just looking into the abyss, if you will, of your phone. And that they also think that it might have changed how information was made available, about information about contraception, abortion, that kind of thing. However, mostly it's that once we got iPhones, we started looking at our phones instead of hanging out with our friends. The end.
Wow. Now that's insane. It does totally make sense. I mean, smartphones in general have changed the entire world, right? Like they've changed how we interact with each other. They've changed how kids grow up. They've changed how people see the world. That they've changed how people see themselves. Like the list goes on, right?
Yeah,
like I do think, none of this can be understated. I think we're also, by the way, just starting to understand all of the effects of smartphones and like what it has done to our culture, society, ourselves, other people. Like, it's unbelievable.
It is wild how much. And I think back on our childhood and stuff, and we used to just have more like idle time. I think I don't know if you remember, just like I remember sitting there and like noticing how a blanket would like flutter over the AC vent as a kid. Like there's no way a child would notice that now, not because they're not observant, but because they have other things to do. And it's like crazy to me how the analog life we used to live was just so much simpler.
And I mentioned this a lot on the podcast, but I do think it's true and worth mentioning again. It's like the less idle time you have, the less time you have to like be bored, which is like when you get your best ideas and when your brain actually has time to like think and relax and have new memories and new experiences and like think about what you want to do. And I don't know. I just feel like it's crazy and upsetting, and I think the more time we can spend away from it is better. But wow, smartphones as birth control, not something I thought, hey mom, while we have you in the studio, I want to ask about, like, do you feel like you had more free time, or like what did you do before smartphones? What did you do with your free time before smartphones? Did you feel like you hung out with people more as a result of like less smartphones?
Yes, you probably did hang out with people more. You had better relationships, probably a deeper relationship.
Yeah, better relationships, deeper relationships.
Because they weren't so shallow and you really didn't care about what your neighbor was doing.
Yeah, you didn't care about your neighbor as much. But you did. You did because you cared about them.
He was alive,
She says you did want to make sure he was alive.
But you didn't need to see what they had for breakfast.
I absolutely did not want to see what they had for breakfast.
Yeah.
You or anybody else.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
That's so funny.
Okay, that is an interesting story.